who is praised with transcendental songs and established an irrevocable pact. Now, we are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 16, entitled How Pariksha Received the Age of Kali. Text 11. I'll just do, this is the first time Linda ever wrote Sanskrit on a board. I think she probably was doing pretty good, but we'll do one word at a time and you can notice if there's something wrong here. But I mean, even we've been doing it for a long time and still make mistakes, but I think she was doing pretty good. Okay. Swalan Kritam, Shama, Taranga, Yojitam, Swalan Kritam, Shama, Taranga, Yojitam, Natam, that's an R.
This is supposed to be 11.
It's 11.
This is 11.
Oh, it's 11.
Oh, she changed the number.
Sorry.
Yes, that's okay.
It's 1.
116:11.
Yeah, 116:11.
Tomorrow's 12.
16.
Always something great.
Yes, tomorrow your day.
11.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Ratam, Mrigendra, Dwajam, Ashrita, Parat, Ratam, Mrigendra, Dwajam, Ashrita, Parat, Vrito, Ratashva, Vipapati, Yuktaya, Vrito, Rahashva, Vipapati, Yuktaya, Swasenaya, Digvijayaya, Nirgata, I'm sorry, it's a aha. Nirgataha. Only works at the end of the line with that little dot under the H, gives you an extra syllable, just like the one before it. Swalankritam Shama Turanga Yojitam. Swalankritam Shama Turanga Yojitam. Ritam Brigendra Dvajamashrita Parat. Vrito Ratashva Dvipapati Yuktaya. Swasenaya Digvijayaya Nirgataha. Swalankritam Shama Taranga Yojitam. Ratam Brigendra Dvajamashrita Parat. Vrito Ratashva Dvipapati Yuktaya. Swasenaya Digvijayaya Nirgataha.
Swalankritam Shamataranga Yojitam. Vritam Mekendra Dvajam Ashrita Parat. Vrito Ratu Yusava. Try that again. Vrito Ratyusva Dvipapati Yuktaya. Swasenaya Digvijayaya Nirgata.
It was a little tricky, especially that last line.
We don't have too many other people that want to do it, so let's go ahead. Do you want to give it a shot? No, you have to do it. I'm sorry. Everybody does it.
I had to write it.
That's okay. All right. Yeah. That gives you more of an intimate connection.
That's true.
I'll do the last line.
That's fine.
I'm gonna do it, so you do it first.
Okay. Swasena Drigvija Yaya Nigrataha.
I think it's changed the last one.
I know.
There you go.
That's how it's always.
That's what he said he was going to
I was like, what happened? Okay, that's all you're gonna do?
That's it.
Okay.
So you can just pick a
I
line.
haven't heard anybody ever say
No,
that.
you can do that.
This is a first.
Swalamritam Shama Duranga Yogitam.
Swalamritam Shama Duranga Yojitam.
Tam Regrendra Dvajamastrita Purat.
Vratam Gendra Dvajam Purat.
Ritorata Swadvipapati Yukteya.
Vrito Ratasva Vipapati Yuktaya.
Swasena Digvijaya Nirgata.
Swasenaya Digvijaya Nirgata.
That last one is definitely a killer.
He did the most difficult one.
I know. But he started a trend now, maybe everybody will just want to do the easy one. Can't have that. Okay, word meanings. Su Alamkritam, very well decorated.
Very well decorated.
Shama,
Shama.
black.
Black.
Turanga,
Turanga.
horses.
Horses.
Yojitam,
That's not
tackled. No,
Tackle.
that word is wrong. Tackled is like football. Like, well, attached like with a harness, it means, because the next one is chariot. Tackled. Yojitam. That has to mean, has to be a mistake. Okay, anyways, repeat it. Yojitam means tackled.
Yep. Okay. If
Okay,
your
go on.
tongue meets tackle, it must be a mistake.
Yeah, right. I was trying to figure out what it could mean. I was trying to look at the verse and everything. Ratam,
Ritam.
chariot. Mriga Indra,
Migra Indra.
lion.
Lion.
Dwajam,
Vajam.
flagged.
Flag.
Ashrita,
Ashritaha.
under the protection.
Under the protection.
Purat,
Purat.
from the capital.
On the capital.
Riktaha,
Viktaha.
surrounded by.
Surrounded by.
Ratha,
Rata.
charioteers. Ashva, cavalry. Dvipapati, elephants. Yuktaya, thus being equipped.
It's like cataract.
Swasenaya,
Swasena.
along with infantry. Digvijayaya, for the purpose of conquering.
For the purpose of conquering.
Nirgataha, went out. Okay, it seems like I'm especially difficult. Bunch of words there. So anyways, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Okay. Maharaj Parikshit sat on a chariot drawn by black horses. His flag was marked with the sign of a lion. Being so decorated and surrounded by charioteers, cavalry, elephants, and infantry soldiers, he left the capital to conquer in all directions. Please repeat. Maharaj Parikshit sat on a chariot
Maharaj Parikshit sat on a chariot
drawn by black horses.
drawn by black horses.
His flag
His
flag
flag
was marked with the sign of a lion.
was marked with the sign of a lion.
Being so decorated
Being so decorated
and surrounded by
and
charioteers,
surrounded by charioteers,
cavalry, elephants,
elephants,
and infantry soldiers.
and infantry soldiers.
He left the capital to conquer in all directions.
He left the capital to conquer
in all directions.
Report. Maharaj Parikshit is distinguished from his grandfather Arjuna, for black horses pulled his chariot instead of white horses. He marked his flag with the mark of a lion, and his grandfather marked his with the mark of Hanumanji. A royal procession like that of Maharaj Parikshit, surrounded by well-decorated chariots, cavalry, elephants, infantry, and band. Probably put band in there. Yeah, they used to bring drums and horns and everything. Not only is pleasing to the eyes, but also is a sign of a civilization that is aesthetic even on the fighting front. So, Omagyan Tirandasarjan Anjana Shalakaya Chakshu Umilitamina Tasma was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So we got a grand picture here of a great army going forth, very colorful. So there's a lot of information in this. First of all, Maharaj Parikshit is the grandson of Arjuna, so we move forward in time. He's a grandson. There's a whole story to his birth. He was saved in the womb from a atomic smart bomb and by Krishna. It was an atomic smart bomb aimed at him, powered by mantra. And the son of the teacher of Arjuna in military arts, and Arjuna and all the young men at that time. He was, by political duty, somehow he was fighting on the opposite side. And his son was just very bitter about the war, and his father got killed in the war, so his son knew the mantra to send an atomic smart bomb called a Brahmastra. It's the worst kind of mantra weapon you can send. And he sent it to finish off the Pandavas. There were almost there's just a handful of people surviving after millions died in the war. There's just literally a handful of people surviving, the Pandavas and their sons. And he killed the sons of the Pandavas in their sleep, and then he fled and he sent the Brahmastra to finish off the Pandavas and their grandson in the womb. And Krishna protected the Pandavas and he protected the grandson in the womb from that Brahmastra. Astra means a weapon, celestial weapon, powered by, you get it from the demigods and it's powered by mantra. So we don't really have them nowadays, but in this time, the war that the Bhagavad Gita is spoken right before was a war in which the leading warriors, the great generals and great fighters, they tended to have these mantra weapons that they got from their spiritual master, that they came from a higher plane. So anyway, that was a great, colorful war. The whole story is called Mahabharata. It's Mahabharata. It means the history of Greater India. Maha means great. History of Great India, Greater India. It's really the history of the world. And India was the center of the world, because that's where the government was. And there was a great big war. So anyways, this is a couple generations later. There was no surviving sons. There was just grandfather Arjuna and the rest of his brothers and the grandson. Those are the generations that were left. So when they were getting older and the grandson became king, and they went off, renounced and went off and went back to Godhead. And so here is Maharaj Parikshit. He's now the emperor of the world. So he's going to go forth. And just because he's the emperor of the world and everybody is peacefully serving doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have to go forth and conquer and exact tribute and make sure everybody's in line. And as we talked about yesterday, we heard about symptoms of the age of Kali. I think we talked about that yesterday. So, anyways, he's going forth. And very colorful. He's taken his whole army. This is a complete army. It's got the chariots, and the chariots would carry the archers, right? Mostly the arrows and these mantra weapons. Cavalry, of course, that's men on horseback. Elephants. The elephants not only gave the advantage of height to anybody up there, if they were going to carry archers, but the elephants were a weapon in themselves because they would trample. They would be terrifying. And they would be given liquor to drink to make them ready to be wild and crazy, and they would be goaded to trample the enemy. It was terrifying. So they were part of the army. And in infantry, of course, the foot soldiers, I guess they would fight with spears and swords and whatever. So there was a complete army and a band. And a band. You have to have, like nowadays, we don't have that anymore. We have cheerleaders at football games, which are imitations of the old style of war. And they had, in this old style of war, they would have, what do they call them? The formations. Is there a word for the formations? Which is their battle formations. They have a plan. They arrange. Huh?
Brigades.
Brigade. Well, they had a plan. They'd have a formation, and there would be a particular plan. I think there was a word. is the name of the army, or is that the name of the
That's the
formation?
name of the formation.
That's the formation?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a formation.
Phalanx. Did I say it right this time? Phalanx?
Yeah.
Phalanx, the accent's on the first. I have to learn this every time. So phalanx, they would have these phalanxes, these formations with a trick to it, you know, and the other army would have their formation. They'd fight, try to defeat each other's formations. And that's what they do in football now, isn't it, basically? They huddle and play a formation.
It's dry.
And they have cheerleaders going and they have a
It's
band.
moisture.
So modern life has this somewhat aesthetic kind of way of waging a fun war, you know. Of course, I don't like seeing people get injured, so I don't like football. But see. So anyways, it's an imitation of that. Because human society needs it. Human society craves this kind of thing. So here he's talking also about, it's a sign that all that's pleasing to the eyes is the decorated chariots. Not all like camouflaged in gray, like we do now. We do a lot of sneaky war techniques nowadays. And so nothing is showy. Everything has to be so you can't really see it, it just looks like part of a drab landscape. And then it was very colorful. They had flags, you knew who they were fighting, you knew where the general was, and he was over there, he was the target because he had a big flag, and we tried to get him, and so on. And he would be able to fight against thousands because he had mounted weapons, and so on. And a completely different kind of war. But anyway, going forth like this, Prabhupada says, it's a sign of a civilization that is aesthetic, even on the fighting front. Even on the fight. So this is a very aesthetic civilization. So that's a kind of interesting thing I want to talk about today mostly, was the Vedic culture is so full of art, like saris. You know, I never see two saris exactly alike. And I've seen saris size hundreds and thousands, maybe saris in my travels in the movement. They're never alike. They're similar, but the colors change. They're a different color pattern or something. It's maybe light green and purple instead of light green and yellow or pink. You know, little changes like that, or different floral patterns. Always art going on. It's a living art all the time. And the carvings, the intricate carvings of wood, and the deities are carved so beautifully according to high artistic standards as well as scriptural standards. The poetry of the scriptures, and so much art, and it's a civilization that encourages the art. So there's some things I wanted to share about that. One is this is from Srimad Bhagavatam. I'll read the verse that came so you get a background. So in second canto, chapter 2, verse 4. This is the chapter, it's from the purport, what I want to read. But this is, I think that this is Shukadeva Goswami talking about living really simplicity. So when there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what's the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hands, what's the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there's ample covering or the skins of trees, what's the necessity of clothing? So he is super, super simple and renounced. But down here in the paragraph, there is, this does not mean that humans, because there's a paragraph discussing how animals are so simple and they have all their needs met. But then Prabhupada says, this does not mean that human civilization should revert to animal life, or that the human being should live naked in the jungles without any culture, education, and sense of morality. So Shukadeva Goswami is living that simply, but he had obviously high education, culture, and sense of morality. But he was living naked in the woods because he was so high and so renounced. But most of us don't like that. So Prabhupada says, an intelligent human cannot live the life of an animal. Rather, man should try to utilize his intelligence in arts and science, poetry and philosophy. In such a way he can further the progressive march of human civilization. So to explain, Shukadeva Goswami says, but here the idea given by Shukadeva Goswami is that the reserve energy of human life, which is far superior to that of animals, should simply be utilized for self-realization. Advancement of human civilization must be towards the goal of establishing a lost relationship with God, which is not possible in any form of life other than the human. So here I want to discuss that the arts help us become higher. Very few of us are already so high as Shukadeva Goswami, that our head is in the spiritual world where everything is beautiful, and we don't need a thing in the material world. So we need some support of a culture that is not lost in the arts for art's sake, because that's Western culture tends like that, like the great symphonies, and well, I guess I shouldn't say that because some of them are glorifying God according to their idea, but like in the Western, we tend to think of art as a separate thing. But in the Vedic culture, art is all supporting the relationship to Krishna. So that's the way it's supposed to be. It's the role it's supposed to play. So it's rich with art. Art lifts us above the animal life, lifts us above animal consciousness. So it's a supportive thing. Like mode of goodness is supportive to spiritual life. You know, the three modes of nature, and mode of ignorance, well, it's like laziness, sleepiness, drugs, that kind of thing, dirt and things like that. Then, mode of passion, that's acquiring, work hard to get what you want. And then mode of goodness is to live then kind of like the pure life, like modern day vegetarians and nature-loving people and stuff like that. People in universities liking to study. Mode of goodness is the one that supports spiritual life, but it's not spiritual life by itself. I've heard it described like it's the airport. You don't go anywhere by going to the airport. You sit there and go to the airport. You don't go anywhere. You're just sitting at an airport on the land. But to get to the airport, you might have to drive through the city where there's a lot more ignorance, highways, there's more passion, and you get to the airport and it's like peaceful and organized for taking off. But the whole point is you got to get on the airplane. So mode of goodness is the airport, spiritual life is the airplane. Devotional service is the airplane. You actually go somewhere. So it's explained like that. So the arts are like the airport. They're supposed to be centered around Krishna consciousness, and they're supposed to support it. Like there's so much art in India illustrating Krishna's pastimes, for example, and so much art for decorating the deity, and so much art for making poetry and music. These are arts also, poetry and music for the scriptures, the knowledge in the scriptures. All of it's supporting Krishna consciousness. And the poor animals, they don't have any of this stuff. What do animals have? Some of these people kind of idealize the idea of a life of an animal, but what do they have? Basically, they have dirt and bushes and bugs. And they eat raw food, either raw animals or raw grass or something. They don't have any beauty in their life because they can't think higher than the needs of their bodies. So that's the life of an animal. So humans actually can make things nice. We can have a nice marble floor. We can paint our walls white. We can have a window to see nature. We can have a pretty picture on the wall or some colorful curtains or something. And we can have beauty. Put on some music like that. So human life needs this kind of beauty to support our spiritual life. It's supposed to be done in such a way that it supports our spiritual life. It's not for its own sake. And you get so spiritually advanced, you're less need for it on this plane because your mind and your heart are in the spiritual world where it's all beautiful. Everything's beautiful in the spiritual world. There's nothing plain there. So let's see. I wanted to talk about the 64 arts. I think I can find that pretty quick too. Because Krishna, when he went to Mathura, he killed Kamsa. He grew up in the village, of course, the Howard village. Then he went to Mathura and he killed Kamsa. And then his birth parents were there. And so his adoptive parents, his foster parents, Nanda and Yashoda, were in the village. So it was time he had to leave them and he had to go to his real parents, his birth parents, not the real parents. Which one's real, which one's birth. It depends how you look at it. So, anyway, this was like, I did find it, I thought I remembered the number, but just a second here. 45. That's chapter 45 in Krishna book. And some paragraphs down where it starts with, I just found it. Okay, this is describing their education. We'll get to the 64 arts, but I'm just going to receive it. This is Krishna and Balaram. They were like teenage boys, and they were under the care for a while of a teacher, an acharya, a guru, to give the example of learning. So they went through this and to give a good example. So it says, it is customary, after being initiated in the Gayatri mantra, for one to live away from home for some time under the care of the acharya, to be trained in spiritual life. During this period, one has to work under the spiritual master as an ordinary menial servant. This is describing the traditional lifestyle, and we in ISKCON we have a little bit different order of things, but because we live away from home first, and then maybe stay in the temple, maybe don't, but so it's slightly different order made for the West, but it's the same principle. There are many rules and regulations for a brahmachari living under the care of an acharya, and Krishna and Balaram strictly followed those regulative principles while living under the instruction of their spiritual master Sandipani Muni, who was a resident of Avantipura in the northern Indian district of Ujjain. According to scriptural injunctions, a spiritual master should be respected and regarded on an equal level with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna and Balaram exactly followed those principles with great devotion and underwent the regulations of brahmacharya. Thus, they satisfied their spiritual master who instructed them in Vedic knowledge. Being very satisfied, Sandipani Muni instructed them in all the intricacies of Vedic wisdom and in supplementary literature such as the Upanishads. Because Krishna and Balaram happened to be Kshatriyas, they were specifically trained in military science, politics, and ethics. Politics includes such departments of knowledge as how to make peace, how to fight, how to pacify, how to divide and rule, and how to give shelter. All these items were fully explained and instructed to Krishna and Balaram. After hearing only once from their teacher, Krishna and Balaram learned all the arts and sciences. In 64 days and 64 nights, they learned all the necessary arts and sciences required in human society. During the daytime, they took lessons on the subject from the teacher, and by nightfall, they were expert in the department of knowledge. First of all, they learned how to sing, how to compose songs, and how to recognize the different tunes. They learned the favorable and unfavorable accents and meters, how to sing different kinds of rhythms and melodies, and how to follow them by beating different kinds of drums. They learned how to dance to the rhythm of melody and different songs. They learned how to write dramas, and they learned the various types of painting, beginning from simple village arts up to the highest perfectional stage. They also learned how to paint tilak on the face by making different kinds of dots on the forehead and cheeks. Then they learned the art of making paintings on the floor with a liquid paste of rice and flour. Such paintings are very popular at auspicious ceremonies performed at household affairs or in the temple. They learned how to make a resting place with flowers and how to decorate clothing and rooms with colorful paintings. They also learned how to set valuable jewels and ornaments. They learned the art of bringing water pots. Water pots are filled with water to a certain measurement so that as one beats on the pots, different tones are produced. And when the pots are beaten together, they produce a melodious song. They also learned how to splash water in rivers or lakes while taking a bath among friends. That's an art. They learned how to decorate with flowers. This art of decorating can still be seen in various temples of Vrindavan during the summer season. It is called Kula Badi. The dais, the throne, the walls, and the ceiling are all fully decorated, and a small aromatic fountain of flowers is fixed in the center. Because of these floral decorations, the people, fatigued from the heat of the summer, become refreshed. Krishna and Balaram learned the art of dressing hair in various styles and fixing a helmet in different positions on the head. They also learned how to set up a theatrical stage, how to decorate dramatic actors with clothes and with flower ornaments over the ear, and how to sprinkle sandalwood pulp and water to produce a nice fragrance. They also learned the art of performing magical feats. Within the magical field, there is an art called Bahurupi by which a person dresses himself in such a way that when he approaches a friend he cannot be recognized. Krishna and Balaram also learned how to make various syrups and beverages required at various times, having various tastes and intoxicating effects. They also learned different types of sewing and embroidery work, as well as how to manipulate thin threads for dancing puppets. This art includes how to string wires on musical instruments, such as the veena, sitar, esaraja, and tambura, to produce melodious sounds. Then they learned how to make and solve riddles. They learned the art of how even an adult student can very quickly learn the alphabet and read books. Then they learned how to rehearse and act out a drama. They also studied the art of solving crossword puzzles, filling up the missing spaces, and making complete words. I'm not done. They also learned how to draw and read pictographic literature. In some countries in the world, pictographic literature is still current. A story is represented by pictures. For instance, a man and house are pictured to represent a man going home. Krishna and Balaram also learned the art of architecture, how to construct residential buildings. They learned to recognize valuable jewels by studying their luster and colors. Then they learned the art of placing jewels in a gold and silver setting so that they look very beautiful. They also learned how to study soil to find minerals. This study of soil is now a greatly specialized science, but formerly it was common knowledge, even for the ordinary man. They learned to study herbs and plants to discover how they would act as medicine for different ailments. By studying the different species of plants, they learned how to crossbreed plants and trees and get different types of fruits. They learned how to train and engage rams and cocks in fighting for sport. Then they learned how to teach parrots to speak and to answer the questions of human beings. Oh my gosh, I don't know how long this is. They learned practice.
Excuse me one second, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that one caught me up. So the answer questions to human beings means that the parrot would answer a question to the human being? Is that the way the sentence is structured?
There's a little segue, but there's a good story to this. I read a story about an African gray parrot, they're the smartest ones, named Alex. And this scientist was studying. She got a little attached to Alex. She was studying. And she taught Alex words, and Alex actually communicated with words. Because one time, they would ask him questions, which one bigger, which one smaller, which one red, which one, he would answer by choosing.
Yeah.
And he also learned to use words to speak back, because they were going to test him. They had a test for a crow, to see if the crow could figure out to pull up a string. It was on a perch, and the string was hanging with a morsel of food down below the perch, and the crow was attached to the perch. Could the crow figure out to pull up the string to get the food? The crow did, and they tried it on Alex to see if Alex was as smart as a crow. Right? So Alex saw the morsel of food down there, and it was a nut, and so that's what he liked. He was nuts. So he said, "Give me nut." They said, "No, Alex, you get nut." Alex said, "Give me nut." He said, "No." Alex said, "Give me That parrot spelled the word to communicate. So, pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Parrots can be really, really smart. And another time she took the parrot home, but there was some screech owls outside on the porch. And Alex told her, "Go home, I want to go home, go home, go home." So she had to take him all the way back, put him in his cage, because he was so disturbed about those screech owls.
Right.
So she had to do what he asked.
Wow.
So, yeah, parrots can communicate. That's why it says parrots. So it's pretty interesting.
He was in National Geographic, too.
Yeah, I saw him on a documentary, too. I read the book and I saw him on the documentary. Okay, they learned practical psychology, how to influence another's mind and thus induce another to act according to one's own desire. Sometimes this is called hypnotism. They learned how to wash hair, dye it different colors, and curl it in different ways. They learned the art of telling what is written in someone's book without actually seeing it. They learned to tell what is contained in another's fist. Sometimes children imitate this art, although not very accurately. One child keeps something within his fist and asks his friend, "Can you tell what is within?" And the friend gives some suggestion, although he actually cannot tell. But there is an art by which one can understand and actually tell what is held within the fist.
Wasn't there a child that was able to tell the serial numbers on a...
Yeah, modern times. Some child could tell the serial numbers on a bunch of bills. And
Bhakti Raghava Maharaj, too?
He said, yeah. So there's some art by knowing, subtle art. Krishna and Balaram learned how to speak. I can't do this one so once, but interesting. Krishna and Balaram learned how to speak and understand the languages of various countries. Not only did they learn the languages of human beings, Krishna could also speak even with animals and birds. Evidence of this is found in the Vaishnava literature compiled by the Goswamis. Then they learned how to make carriages and airplanes from flowers. It is said in the Ramayana that after defeating Ravana, Ramachandra was carried from Lanka to Bharatavarsha on a plain of flowers called a Pushparatha. Krishna and Balaram then learned the art of foretelling events by seeing signs. In a book called Kanara Vachana, the various types of signs and omens are described. If when one is going out, one sees someone with a bucket full of water, that's a very good sign. But if one sees someone with an empty bucket, it is not a good sign. Similarly, if one sees a cow being milked alongside its calf, it is a good sign. The result of understanding these signs is that one can foretell events. And Krishna and Balaram learned the science. They also learned the art of composing matrika. A matrika is a crossword box with 3 numbers in each row. If one adds any 3 from any side, it will come to 9. The matrikas are of different kinds and for different purposes. There's another paragraph. How many?
You know, with the bucket of water, when before I would go out on a sales trip, I would have Colleen stand outside the door with a full bucket of water, so I'd see it.
That's funny.
Okay, one more paragraph. Krishna and Balaram learned the art of cutting valuable stones such as diamonds, and they also learned the art of questioning and answering by immediately composing poetry within the mind. They learned the science of the action-reaction of physical combinations and permutations. That's a big, so I don't know what that means. They learned the art of a psychiatrist who can understand the psychic movements of another person. They learned how to satisfy one's desires. Desires are very difficult to fulfill. But if one desires something which is unreasonable and can never be fulfilled, the desire can be subdued and satisfied, and that is an art. By this art, one can also subdue sex impulses when they are aroused, as they are even in brahmachari life. By this art, one can make even an enemy one's friend, or transfer the direct action of a physical element to other things. So that's the end of the list. So it's a lot of arts. I believe that Radharani also is expert in these arts, right? Radharani, these 64 arts.
Yeah.
So is it just men and women learn these arts, and this is considered completion of education, besides all the practical other stuff that we think of as education. Nowadays they are trying to steer people away from the liberal arts into the sciences, I guess, mathematics and sciences. Anyway, nowadays you can't compare civilization to the Vedic civilization. But Prabhupada said somewhere, I don't know where this was, that art is, when society is wealthy, when there's enough to eat, then you can have art, something like that, something like that. So actually the Vedic society was very wealthy. It was very wealthy because they had real things. We count wealth in money, which is artificial, and it only depends on everybody believing that these little numbers and papers are money. Everybody agrees that it's money, so it works as money, but it isn't anything real. But you could use it to purchase real things if you have enough of it. And in that Vedic civilization, they would have real things. They would trade real things. Real cotton, real silk, real wool, real grains, real
Gold.
precious metals like gold, real jewels, etc. They had real things, and they would trade that. So they had plenty of wealth. So they had plenty of food, plenty of wealth, and the cows, the milk, everything was so much. They had so much milk they could throw yogurt at each other in a festival. They had so much wealth, and therefore they had so much art also. So we study Varnashram, we study self-sufficiency, and try to get, if we ever get it so it's actually functioning enough, we'll have, naturally arts also. It's a big job ahead of us. So I guess one hand went up already, and I think actually that's everything I was going to say, so yes.
It makes sense. You wouldn't have a food fight if you were starving.
Right, you wouldn't have, so
You would not waste time.
Millions of
Let's
cows.
play.
Millions of cows milking and lots lots and local butter, selling it to the cities, and still extra left over, yeah.
And I've seen at Panayati in Atlanta, some of the Gurus were throwing gulajamans, and I was going, oh no! They're throwing it at their open mouth, like
Yeah.
30
But
feet
they
away.
miss what they do, they must have missed most of the time. And then they eat it off the floor.
It was off the grass. It was out front.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't need to be said, but obviously Krishna and Balaram, they didn't need to do this, to become expert.
Good point.
That's their Supreme Personality Godhead. But I guess just to, set the example, just like Krishna would get up and meditate on himself.
Yeah.
So that, and then I was just going to say also that about learning the language of the animals, that actually Nakula of the five Pandavas, he could understand and talk to the animals. And my Guru Maharaj told one story that when they were in the house of Black, and just kind of waiting for Pirojana, the henchman of Duryodhana, to set fire to the house, then in India there's this little lizard called a tik-tik. It's a kind of a gecko that those lizards would come and inform them what's happening. Like you have a little more time, you're not quite ready to set fire to it, or today is the day. And so they were because they could be very unobtrusive, crawling on the wall and listen to the bad guys, what were their plans, and then come over and tell the Pandavas, and Nakula could communicate with them. They knew what was going on. Also, tik-tiks there, it said that when you say something that's true, then they'll...
A lie detector.
And just like you said, Krishna is the Supreme Personality Godhead. And even I've been in India in classes where something will be said, and then the tick-tick goes off, and then my Guru might say, confirmed.
Animals in India are maybe sometimes kind of special. They could be great devotees. Yeah, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did for a while. But there was a pastime when the devotees first were staying in Vrindavan, and they were calling this one monkey, Jamuna that was, the cook, the one that sings
Yeah.
Govinda for us. And she was calling this one monkey something like Tuesday or something, because every Tuesday he would come and expect food. He would intimidate, and they overheard. Prabhupada said he'll deal with this. Don't feed him anymore. And so then she walked in, sort of almost walked in, but she was sort of stood outside, and she saw Prabhupada speaking with the monkey.
Wow.
Actually speaking in a monkey language.
Wow.
And that monkey never bothered them again.
Wow.
Wow. It's amazing.
And
Yeah.
Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's it was a pure devotee, of course, but there's a lot of things that are, just like you said certain things like that these people knew that were, even we know from people that, because we were more of an agrarian-based civilization, they would know which herbs were for, this one here will help you with, if you're having trouble with digestion or something. They would understand. It was passed down generationally, and gradually these things get lost. So, there is, when you're more connected, our civilization has disconnected us from the natural things and connected us to concrete and glass, and wires, and now it's wireless. So, but yeah. So and then there's the pastime with this dog outside of Lord Ramachandra's palace. Every day, the dog was going and sitting outside of his palace, and a Brahmin, a real Paka Brahmin, first-class Brahmin, doesn't want a dog to touch him. He doesn't even want the dog's his shadow to be touched by the dog. He considers that would be it would contaminate him. So this dog was there, and whenever the Brahmin saw the dog, he would get upset and hit it with a stick or yell at it. And so one day, Lakshman, Ramchandra's brother, noticed this, and he noticed that the dog was very sad. So he spoke to the dog and asked him what the problem is. And I actually had a friend, a side note, when I was growing up, that had a dog that if you held a piece of cheese up, they had trained it, and it would go, "I want one." I actually heard him say it, "I want one." And then he would get the cheese. And one of my dogs, Sachi, she would say, "Ram, Ram." Like that, I worked on it for hours. Actually, Hanuman did also. Hanuman used to say Ram. But anyway, so Lakshman talked to the dog, and the dog said, "In my last life, I was the president of the ashram over there, down across town. And because I was the president, all the offenses that were committed in the ashram, I had to get a reaction for that. And so I had to take this birth as a dog. But I have the blessing that I can remember my last life. So I stay out here so I can get the darshan of Lord Ramachandra. But this Brahmin keeps harassing me. And and it's very difficult. It's a difficult situation, and I don't want to offend the Brahmin, even as a dog. So Lakshman says, "Well, would you like to talk to Lord Ram?" He says, "Yes, please." So he brings him in to the palace, and the dog, not only the common man, but a dog could come in and make his case. And the dog explains the story, and so Ram says, "Well, what would you like me to do?" And the dog says, "I would like you to appoint that Brahmin as president of that ashram." And so dogs have sense of humor as well.
That's pretty good. I think now that you said it, I remember, I was trying to remember, what was the story? Did I hear it? What was it? And we got to the end of it, and oh yeah, that was it.
It's a nice story.
Mm-hmm.
So many nice stories like that. But the Prabhupada, I just heard that recently, where Jamuna is talking, and in the memory series, and she said that, because sometimes you listen to them and then you go back and you go, "I don't remember hearing that," because it's just like maybe you get distracted or you forget. And when she said that Prabhupada was talking to the monkey in monkey talk, like sort of like a whatever, however that is, but and then that monkey never came back and never bothered him. But there's lots of other things that with the dogs and the monkeys where Prabhupada would explain how to deal with them. And there was another quick pastime that there was a really dangerous dog when they would walk, I think in Los Angeles, generally would stay away in a really nice neighborhood. And Prabhupada would make a point about how they have these dogs in these nice neighborhoods, but they're so full of anxiety, they keep these dogs to protect them. The barking dog is there. Whereas in India, you go to anybody's house, you're welcome. But in America, the first thing is, "What are you doing here?" Mm-hmm. We have a right to stand your ground rule. These kinds of ridiculous things. So one day, the dog was always back there, never just barked. But this one day, it charged. There's all these big devotees like Brahmananda and some other big-bodied devotees, and they're all like, it's a big dog, and it's coming right towards him. And Prabhupada just, stands his ground with his cane and just goes, "Ha!" And the dog just stopped right there. And I've tried it, it's never really worked. One time though, when I was doing meter reading for a while, it was Lord Nityananda's appearance day, and I'm saying Nityananda, Nityananda all day. And this dog comes chasing towards me. And I just went, "Nityananda!" And I didn't know the owner was watching. And all of a sudden the dog just hit the brakes and laid down. And I was able to go over and pet him. And then I see the owner. She goes, "What did you just say?" I said, "Oh, you see, I used to be. I had to think on my feet. I said, I used to be a dog trainer, and I know certain words that because actually dog trainers will speak sometime in German. German sometimes sounds like their dogs growling sometimes when they speak. No disrespect to anybody who has a German ancestry, but that I know this one devotee who trained dogs, and he would speak German to the dogs, and they would do exactly what he said. So anyway, I told her, just say Nityananda. She said, because the dog would never do that. Anyway, so back to Prabhupada. Prabhupada goes hut, and he stops. And then, so his servant at the time was Nanda Kumar, and Prabhupada also said you could do this with, like in India, the problem would be with monkeys. And one day, Nanda Kumar was challenged by a monkey, and he didn't know what to do, and Prabhupada said, do like I did with the dog. You take the stick and you go, hut! And so this monkey comes in, it's a big monkey, and is stealing the boga, and everybody can see, Prabhupada has guests, and they can see Nanda Kumar, and they're all from Vrindavan, they're all Brijvasis, so then you all know how to deal like these things. And Nanda Kumar goes, hut! And the monkey just like, and starts coming right for him, and he runs back, and they're all laughing. I said, well, Prabhupada, I did exactly like you said. He said he was testing you. If you had done it the second time, then he would have stopped. And he said, you never hit the monkey with the cane. You only show him the cane. If you hit him, then it's, war. But all these kinds of things that people, we lost our connection with other living entities, including the trees and the plants and the soil. And we've lost that connection for the most part. And, these things are common knowledge. But I've really found, I've read this story before, and we used to do it as a play when I first joined. And we had a lot of fun with it. But as I'm listening to it now, I'm thinking, God, I wish school was like that when I was in school. That seems like that's real education to me, instead of algebra.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can't remember any of my algebra.
I can't. What's the value of that? I'm sure there's a value if you're trying to create a nuclear weapon, but we have a mantra for that.
Only for those who have the proclivity.
Yeah.
I enjoyed geometry so much because I'm an artist. I like spatial relationships, and it made so much sense to me. I enjoyed it. I can't remember a thing. Can't remember a thing.
The golden mean.
Yeah, that's the problem with the mind.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, I guess we went quite a
I'm sorry.
long time, so. Anything else? Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Srimad Bhagavatam.
So how